And it's just basketball. At the end of the day, it's just basketball.
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe on the way in the door, my people. I hope you all are having a truly fantastic day today. Welcome back to Fanboy Fridays.
Have you thought through, not relationship, because you'll always be his dad and always be his son, but what's your working relationship? Is he going to call you dad at practice in the locker room?
No, we already laid that. No, he can't. We already laid that down. He cannot call me dad in the workplace. All right. Once we leave out of the private facility and the gates close, I could be dad again. Okay. In the car, if we ride together. Okay. At home, I could be dad. No, he got to call me like 2-3 or Brian. Okay. Or, GOAT if he wants to. That's up to him. I mean,
Okay. We continue with the foolishness, people. So, I'm sure most of you have heard the phrase, if a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it still make a noise? Some of you may be familiar with the what is it? The Schrodinger's Cat Philosophy or whatever. It has something to do with, I think, quantum physics or metaphysics, something like that. But anyway, it kind of goes off this theory that if a cat is unobserved alone in a box, it could be both alive and both dead at the same time. Now, why am I bringing this up? Let me give you my answers to these hypothetical situations. Let me give you my answer. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, it absolutely 100% makes a sound. I feel like I can say this with the utmost confidence. I can say this for a couple of reasons. Let's say you have a friend of yours to go into that forest and cut down a tree. Your friend is going to hear that sound even though you're not there. You could leave a recording device in the middle of the forest and maybe plant some explosives or whatever and blow the explosives, and that recording device will capture the sound even though you're not there. To me, this is just logical, and I really can't figure out even what are we trying to get to by asking these kind of questions. The same with the Schrodinger's cat thing. Basically saying that if a cat is unobserved in a box, and someone may be able to explain this a little bit better than I can, or a lot better than I can, but if a cat is unobserved in a box, it could be both alive and both dead. No, it is either one or the other. Now, why am I bringing these things up? I'm bringing this up because LeBron James seems to be, and we know this, we just heard from Rashad McCants a week or two ago about, LeBron James saying he wanted to or wants to erase number 23. LeBron James throughout his career over and over and over and over, time and time again, has shown us that he absolutely cares if people see him as the GOAT or not. He cares. We know this from mainstream media. We know this from people like Stephen A. Smith and Kendrick Perkins, who have on national television said that, hey, we have gotten calls from Clutch Sports agents, from LeBron James, from Rich Paul, because they weren't happy with the criticism we gave him on a particular night, and they would rather us put out these narratives than the truth. So we know LeBron James has spent his entire career trying to convince people that he's the GOAT, and he has convinced a segment of people. Those people generally are known as fanboys. Those are the people that LeBron James is fooling all of the time. But I got a question for everyone, but particularly for you fanboys. And then we're going to tie this back in to my initial points about if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? Let's say through all this propaganda, through all this tampering with the media, through all this tampering with the NBA and getting his son hired and forming super teams and, controlling the narrative and having everyone make excuses for him and starting his own podcast with JJ Ridiculous so he can promote his own narratives through all the tearing down of the past generations. And we are done with the 90s, things that are a direct response, I feel like a direct response from the LeBron James fanboys and fanboy media because they just can't seem to get people to forget Michael Jordan is the GOAT. They just can't seem to do it. But through all these methods that LeBron James has went about trying to convince people that he was the GOAT, and with this latest thing on the shop, he wanted to make a joke about it. He can call me 2-3, or he can call me the GOAT. Ha 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 ha. Through with all the, we know LeBron James he was not joking. He was just taking a moment to throw that out there to keep the fanboys brainwashed and hopefully sway some people. But through all these things LeBron James has done, let's imagine for a moment, hypothetically, just like that hypothetical tree in the forest falling and nobody's around to hear it, doesn't make a sound. Hypothetically, let's say LeBron James and all of this media meddling and tampering pays off, and he convinces the majority of people that he is the GOAT. The majority of people start calling this man or this kid from Akron, start calling this kid the GOAT. Is he really the GOAT? Fanboys, let me say this one more time for you guys. Let's say all the years of accumulating stats, of moving the goalposts, of first he's the GOAT because he's the best all-around player, then he's the GOAT because he's a pass first player, then he's the GOAT because he passes Kareem on the all-time scoring list, and then he's the GOAT because he's of this recent gold medal, this 2024 medal. This constant moving the goalposts, and every year is, if he does this, then he's the GOAT, thus showing that he is not the GOAT still. But let's say all of this media meddling and pushing narratives, let's say it works. Let's say it works and he is able to convince everyone, or I should say brainwash, because this is really what it's coming down to. Let's say he's able to brainwash everyone, or at least the majority of people, into calling him to GOAT, into thinking he's the GOAT. Would he truly be the GOAT? Let me give you the answer to that. If you could convince the world through constantly pushing media narratives that 2 + 2 is 5, would that in fact make 2 + 2 5? Or would you have simply convinced everyone to go against something they know is not true? Or go along with something they know is not true? If you could get in the media every single day, radio, social media, every means possible, billboards, and every time you open your mouth, 2 + 2 is 5, 2 + 2 is 5. You're seeing it everywhere, and slowly people start saying, "Oh, 2 + 2 is 5." Does it make it the truth? I think we all know the answer to that, at least those of us with common sense. it absolutely does not make it the truth. And I've said all this to say this, that LeBron James, if you ever get what you want, and you are ever, if it ever happened, it's never going to happen, because again, it's just the proof is out there. You know, you can try to convince people you're the GOAT all you want, but when they go back and watch all you have to do is really watch Michael Jordan highlights. Now, you can't get the full extent of Michael Jordan's career and greatness simply through the highlights, but the highlights alone is enough to let everyone know that LeBron James is not in the same stratosphere with this guy. But let's say through some miracle, he was able to convince people, LeBron James, if you were able to do that, you in your heart would still know you're not the GOAT. If you have to do all this convincing, if you have to do all this pushing narratives and trying to brainwash people, you know, by constantly putting it out there, that does not make you the GOAT. That is not what made Michael Jordan the GOAT. Michael Jordan didn't become the GOAT because the media was constantly saying, and especially media pushed by Michael Jordan himself. You know, Michael Jordan didn't become the GOAT because the media was telling people that he's the greatest of all time. Michael Jordan became the GOAT because when people watched him play, the proof was in the pudding. When people watched him play, that is all they needed to see. Again, this is why people were saying Michael Jordan was the best player they have seen before he set foot on the NBA court. Even before then. Now, were they saying he's the greatest of all time? No. You know, the greatness comes with the accolades and all those other things. But before he set foot on the NBA court, you know, people were already saying this is the best basketball player I have ever seen. Now, see, when you were in high school, they weren't saying this is the best basketball player we've ever seen. They were saying maybe he could be the next Michael Jordan. There's a difference. Fanboys, do you see the difference? Do you see the difference between one guy they were already saying this is the best basketball player we've ever seen, and the other guy they were saying maybe he can be as good as this best basketball player we've ever seen? But they weren't saying he's the best basketball player we've ever seen. When LeBron James came in his rookie year, they weren't saying this is the best basketball player we have ever seen. And year after year, the narrative has never been, this is the best basketball player we have ever seen. See, with Michael Jordan, it was, this is the best basketball player we've ever seen. But in order for us to put him up there, and Michael Jordan himself understood this, and here's the difference. Here's another difference between Michael Jordan and the deer and your false king. Is Michael Jordan was not chasing the praise of people being able to say he's as good as Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. No, Michael Jordan was a competitor, and he knew from a competitor standpoint that, hey, I can't consider myself on these guys' level until I have won. This is Michael Jordan, the competitor, and understanding competition and understanding winning. It wasn't about the world seeing me as great as Larry and Magic. It was about me, myself, seeing myself, understanding that until I win, I can't compare myself to these guys. So again, like I said, one player was already being seen as the best basketball player we have ever seen, and he just needed the accolades to back it up. The other player, we were saying maybe he can be as great, maybe he can be as good as the best basketball player we've ever seen. This is the difference. So again, if LeBron James is able to convince everybody through all this media narrative constantly 24/7, Nick Rice and Shannon Sharps and even Chris Broussard, because again, you know, people like Chris Broussard are complicit because even though he may have Michael Jordan as the GOAT, he still has LeBron James as number 2. That is completely unacceptable. And to me, you cannot have Michael Jordan is number one, considering all the things that Michael Jordan represented, and have LeBron James at number two. You can't have Michael Jordan at number one because of his will to win, because of his competitive nature, because of his killer instinct, because of his leadership on the court. You can't have Michael Jordan at number one and then have Mr. Flopper at number two. Mr. Flopper, Mr. Leave games early, Mr. Sit on the bench and eat your food, setting a bad example for the rest of the team. Yeah, you can't have this guy as number two next to Michael Jordan. Mr. Form a super team and severely underachieve with said super teams. You can't have this guy next to Michael Jordan at number two. You can't have this guy who's being praised for this longevity and hadn't won a defensive award since the Miami years, who doesn't play defense, who they always give excuses. Oh, well, he doesn't play defense to conserve on offense. Well, you know what? If he's not going to play defense, he needs to be averaging 50 points a game. Especially in this weak, soft era. Again, he's been praised, you know, for what, it was averaging 27 or something. Still being praised for that. However, again, without taking in consideration that, yes, we're in the softest era of basketball currently. And so you may say, well, you know, 2 + 2 is 4. That's an actual fact. There is no actual fact for the GOAT debate. Michael Jordan being the GOAT isn't fact. But I would argue this. First of all, that whether you have Michael Jordan as the GOAT or not, having LeBron James in your top 10, again, only means that you are ignoring the standards that everyone else set before him. I don't care who you are. I don't care, you know, again, there's other content creators that I like a whole lot, and I think their content is fantastic. But if you have LeBron James in your top 5, to me, the only way to do that is to ignore the standards that were set before. Ignore the standards of the Michael Jordans, of the Kobe Bryants, of the Tim Duncans, of your Larry Birds and Magic Johnsons and Kareems and Russells, and, you know, and really anybody else. That is the only way that you can prop up LeBron James. You have to totally ignore that he's thrown out the standards of what was considered greatness previously. So, you know, again, we can say the GOAT debate is subjective, and I don't think it's subjective. I think Jordan, again, if we're just talking about someone who feels so many categories more than any other players fills so many categories. If you look at it from that point of view, I don't think there's an argument that you can make for anyone being over Jordan. However, again, it is subjective somewhat. Again, there's no definitive way to have a GOAT, but what I will say, like I said, to me, if you have LeBron James in your top 5, first of all, to me, it is a fact that LeBron James is definitely not number 2. It's not in rankings, and not in the ranking sense. He may be number 2 in other ways, but not in the ranking. But yeah, you know, again, you would have to ignore that this guy just threw out all the standards, and, you know, this latest thing with Bronny James, and I didn't play the whole clip. I played the clip that most people are playing about LeBron James once again showing how ridiculous and desperate he is with this GOAT debate. And yeah, I don't know what else to say, but yeah. So yeah, my thing is, like I said, LeBron James, if you were somehow able to convince everyone that you were the GOAT, that still doesn't make you a GOAT. If you can convince everyone that 2 + 2 is 5, that still doesn't make 2 + 2 5. The truth is always the truth, no matter how many people you can convince that is not the truth. And last but not least, I'm gonna say this: if you actually felt satisfied And I think LeBron James would. If I'm being honest, not only with LeBron James, but his whole 4 and 6 kingdom, all you fanboys that's in my comments, I can't even say it's just my LeBron videos. You know, every time you see me do a video, you're always in my comments, all of you guys, because again, you are so in love with LeBron James because you share a lot of the same characteristics as LeBron James. So I believe LeBron James would feel satisfied if he were able to convince everyone that he was the GOAT. But here's what I would have to say about that. The fact that he would feel satisfied just shows that this is not about competition, not on the basketball court. This is about popularity competition for LeBron James. This is a popularity contest for LeBron James. This GOAT thing, LeBron James has somehow misunderstood what the greatest of all time means. He thinks it's a popularity contest and it's a praise contest. Oh, I can get the praise that Michael Jordan got. That's what I want. I want everyone to talk about how great I am. But here's the thing is, go watch people talk about LeBron James and go watch people talk about Michael Jordan. And if you are a slightly perceptive person, you will see the difference. When people talk about LeBron James, it doesn't even make you excited. I mean, think about this. When people talk about LeBron James, it's like, oh man, yeah, Bron, man, his IQ is so off the charts. I remember when we were playing and he was like, man, hey, go to the corner, man, and I'm gonna hit you with this pass so you can score a 3 for me. And then I went in the corner and he hit me with a pass and I made the shot. And I was like, man, so LeBron is a basketball savant, man. I just can't. I mean, it is so boring when people even try to prop this guy up, you know, except for Gonzo, Nick Wright. But when you listen to people talk about Michael Jordan, it's like, oh man, do you remember that game when Michael Jordan took off from one side of the lane and like switched hands 3 times and laid it up on the other side of the lane? It's like, man, can you believe it? Like when people talk about Michael Jordan, it gets you excited to hear it. Number one, because people can be excited about what they remember. When we talk about Michael Jordan, again, we are talking about what we remember and the feeling that you got. Again, I'm going to wrap this video up, but I'm going to say this one more time. For the people who grew up watching Michael Jordan, it was must-see TV. And it wasn't about the media telling you that you needed to see it. It's like once you saw Michael Jordan play one time, that one time because here's the thing, every single game, Michael Jordan did something unbelievable. Now, some games were more unbelievable than others, but every single game he did something that wowed you. And so the need to watch every single Chicago Bulls game on WGN, it was about like you didn't want to feel like you were missing out. If you played basketball, you did not want to feel like you were missing out. This is the feeling that Michael Jordan gave you, and this is why when people talk about Michael Jordan, there's this excitement to it. Again, nobody talks about LeBron James like that. Again, going back to the top 75 celebration, you know, again, listen to every player talk about when Michael Jordan showed up. There are no stories about, oh man, when LeBron showed up. I'm sorry, fanboys. I know the truth hurts. I know it hurts your soul, and if I'm being honest, I take some pleasure in doing that to you. I can't lie. I take some pleasure in hurting you a little bit. But yeah, there are no stories. I hadn't seen one story about, man, yeah. I was sitting there talking to Magic and you know, talking to Allen Iverson and this, but man, when LeBron walked in the room, I mean, that just sounds ridiculous to say. That just sounds ridiculous to say. Man, when LeBron showed up, you don't hear those stories. But all the players say, hey, when MJ walked into the room, that was case closed. So we're going to hold this video up here. But like I said, to me, like, this whole thing is so ridiculous that LeBron James is so desperate and feels the need to keep on throwing this GOAT thing out there. And it just got me thinking, like I said, it's like, okay, let's say you were actually able to convince the majority of people. Does that actually make it true from that standpoint? From the standpoint that you basically had to, over the course of 21 years, keep repeating this over and over and over till people basically finally gave in, or to people finally was like, well, man, everybody keeps saying it must be true. Now, that doesn't make it true. Like I said, if you can convince everybody 2 + 2 is 5, that doesn't make it true. The truth still stands by itself, no matter how many people believe it or how many people don't. And I'm gonna say this: all you have to do, if you know how to look at basketball, this really goes beyond basketball. Again, this channel is about life. This channel is about life. This goes beyond basketball. In anything, on the basketball court, on the football field, in the office, on the big screen, whether we're talking about acting and music, all you have to do is observe people, and you can tell why they have the amount of success that they have, or why they have the lack of success that they have. Now, for you ridiculous fanboys who I know are gonna get on here and start talking about how much money LeBron James makes, this is not what we're talking about. LeBron James wants to be the GOAT, and this is something he has not done. This is something that he's not even close to. And all you have to do is watch the games, and you will see why he's not close. Look, I know I keep saying I'm gonna wrap this up, but LeBron James and Shaquille O'Neal are very much the same. They relied on their athleticism. Again, still to this day, only thing we hear about LeBron James is the workouts, how he keeps himself in shape. Again, somebody please tell me why we never hear about how relentless he is in practice. And I'm talking about on a consistent basis. How relentless he is. Again, it's all about working out. And again, I watch some of his workouts. They look kind of fluffy to me, to be honest. But this is all we hear about. So if this is what we hear about him on a regular basis, to me, that is enough to tell you that his focus is not actually on basketball. His focus is actually on staying in shape through whatever means necessary, when we know what means is probably involved in that. But his focus is on staying in the game and keep racking up these stats. His focus has never been to continue to improve as a basketball player. But anyway, we gonna hold up here, my people. It never ends with this guy. He's gonna keep on. Again, he tried to make it like it was a joke. Oh, he can call me GOAT. Ha ha ha. Yeah. You were joking, but you weren't joking. Again, you was just taking this opportunity to throw that out there again. And you know, it's just getting super. It's been cringy, and it's been desperate. But it's just like, man, you're 40 years old. You hadn't learned by now that this, it's not working for you. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments. What do you think about LeBron James continuing with this ridiculous trying to push narratives, with his disingenuous trying to make it seem like it was just a joke? We all know LeBron James. This is a calculated thing. This is a way to keep putting the word out there and to, hopefully convince some weak-minded people who, will eventually become fanboys and join the 4 and 6 Kingdom. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. You all have a truly fantastic day, and I'll see you next time. All right.